Welcome to Nepi Invest the World. Today, we are heading back to the basics. So the share price is one of the first things we notice about a publicly trading company. When I first started investing, it was one of the first things I really did notice and one of the first things I learned about. But what does the share price represent? Now, there's probably some of you here just shaking their heads going, it's fairly obvious. But unfortunately, in recent times, I've heard and seen some misconceptions about the share price and what it represents, which makes me question, it makes me think there is a lack of understanding there about some of the basics around investing in the stock market. So to unlock what the share price represents, we first must know what a share is. And then once we know what the share price is, we can unlock the term market cap. But firstly, I'm just going to discuss why this topic is important and why all of a sudden I've just gone onto this. So it goes back to a few months ago. It seems like a lot of new money is entering the stock market in recent months, ever since that crash in March. And it was just a podcast Q&A of a finance podcast I was listening to when a questioner did ask, they were looking for some cheap shares. And the two podcast analysis or interviewers were just mentioning some, cheap companies they thought were cheap anyway. And then one of them mentioned Berkshire Hathaway. The person who asked the question just said, I've heard about that company. What's the share price? And then the interviewer just mentioned the share price. And then the person asking the question just said, oh, no. I'm looking for something much cheaper than that. Something like around $1. It took me aback when I heard that. And the interviewers didn't take them aback because they explained that share price and relative valuation are not synonymous. So this person thought they were synonymous. You can just equate share price and valuation of a company, but they are not. So share price alone does not determine whether a share price or a company is cheap or expensive. And then this morning, this post on a Facebook, one of those share market community pages, I saw this morning and I went, oh yeah, this I've seen this a lot. So this one person posted this looking at some Australian iron ore miners, a few of the very small iron ore miners, and he noted the deposits. So Phoenix and Strike had really small deposits, only going to be viable for a few years. Yet the share prices of these two companies, Phoenix and Strike, was much higher than Flinders Mines, upwards of 4 times higher. Yet they had so much higher deposits and a longer mine life. And so he circled those share prices as, what do you think? And thankfully there were a few comments, replies to that. First one, you circled the wrong thing, which is absolutely right. Someone else said it's all about the market cap. Share price doesn't tell the story. They have a huge amount of shares on issue. And someone just replied market cap. So there is a lack of understanding out there by some people, and other people know about this. So sorry if you know all about the share price, what it means, and what the difference between a market cap and a share price is. But today, that's what I'm going to go through, what a share is, share price, and then finally end up looking at the market cap. Now, the person who asked that question on the podcast probably was thinking share ownership or shares is very similar to, say, if you walk into a jean shop and you can compare like the Levi jeans to the really cheap pair of jeans. So Levi's might cost, who knows, $200 or so for a pair. Cheap jeans might cost about $20 a share. So that's vastly different than what shares are. So what is a share? So share is essentially just a unit or percentage ownership of an entity or a company. And the way I look at it is it's like a pizza. If you just have a pizza without slices and you buy that for $8, that pizza is $8. But then if you slice the pizza into 4 slices, each slice is sort of worth $2 each. But then each slice is representing only 25% of the pizza at large. Then if you cut the pizza into 8 slices, so each slice is then worth about $1 each. and each slice only represents 12.5% of the pizza at the whole. And if you go, keep going, 16 slices, each slice is 50 cents, and that represents 8.25% size of the pizza. So you can just keep going like this, just slicing up the pizza, continually slicing up, and that's very similar to company ownership, company shares. So a share is just like a slice of pizza. It represents a unit or a percentage ownership of that pizza or company. So how many shares do companies have? So just like that pizza slice, you can just cut it up, the company, into infinite amount of shares, really, but there is going to be a limit eventually. But so percentage ownership or shares can be widely different between companies. So we're talking about from millions or 1 million, even less than a million, to tens of billions different. So I've got two examples here on the ASX, so Blackmores and Telstra. So most people know what they are. So Blackmores is just sort of provide vitamin pills and that sort of thing. They only have 18.7 million shares on issue, while Telstra has 11.9 billion, so vastly different amount of shares on issue there. So I'm not referring to shares on issue, but you might also see it being termed shares outstanding, or in some places, even especially in the reports of companies, they call it weighted average number of ordinary shares. So there's ordinary shares and there's preferred shares. I won't talk about the difference now, but maybe that's a different video. So where do you find these shares on issue? So there are numerous places you can find it. So financial websites. So the example here on the left is from the ASX website, but you can get it from Yahoo Finance, Google Finance, Wall Street Journal, many different places. There are a few discrepancies here. So I've got here ASX has Blackmores as 19.35 million shares on issue. I've seen it ranging between 17.4 million, 18.7 to 19.4. So there's a little bit of differences between the sites. Or you can get the amount of shares on issues directly from the company itself, particularly the annual report. So if you go to the financial statements, the profit and loss statement, they have a couple of places there we can find it. So in the equity section, at the issued capital, I'm not looking at the number here, the 146388. I'm looking at this notes here. This 4.4 refers to notes that you can find later on in the annual report, which I've got down here. So in the 4.4 note issued capital, they list how many ordinary shares are on issue. So in this year, it started at 17.4 million. They did do one capital raising of 1.3 million shares, and there were some issues of shares and a DRP or dividend reinvestment plan and some employee share plans that did raise the amount of shares on issue to 18.7 million. You could also see a weighted average number of ordinary shares. If you looked at note 4.51, they do mention that. So they just average the amount of shares throughout the whole the year. Because the capital raising was done towards the end of the year, the WANOS, W-A-N-O-S, or weighted average number of shares, is actually going to be lower than the shares at the end of the year. So there's a few ways you can find the number of shares on issue. Very easy to find, typically. Now, we know what a share is. It's just a unit value or unit slice of a company. But what is a share price? So a share price is simply the market value of a share. And just like the amount of shares on issue, you get a wide range of share prices. So on the left-hand side here, I've got a very famous company called Berkshire Hathaway. So if you've ever heard of Warren Buffett, he's run Berkshire Hathaway for decades. And they've just left it alone, especially these Class A shares. So there's Class A shares and Class B shares. Class A shares, they haven't done any share splits. They just let it run. And the share price at the recent on Friday was 327,431. So to buy one share in Berkshire Hathaway Class A shares, you need to pony up $327,431. It's only 1.6 million shares on issue for Berkshire Hathaway Class A. You can just see there the share price, or the shares went up 0.5%, which equates to $1,772. Only 299 shares were issued on this day, but that equates to $94 million. So Not a lot traded there, but when you compare it to Victory Mines Limited, so this is a very small miner in Australia. I should have never heard of this company. I was just using this as an example. Their share price is $0.0015 or 0.15 cents. So not even 1.5 cents, 0.15 cents. It's almost as cheap as you can get. You can get to 0.001. This is just slightly above that. You can see it's gone up 0.0005 cents or dollars today, which represents 50% increase. Volume traded is 5 million, which is only $8,500, and they have 2 billion shares on issue. So, wide range of share prices. Now, so we know what a share is, we know what the share price is, and actually with those two bits of information, we can actually figure out what the market cap of a company is. So what is the market cap? So market cap is simply the market value of all the shares in a company. So we know both of those things. We know how many shares they are, so that's the OR, and we know the market value of one share, which is the market value of a single share, which is the share price. So with that information, we can calculate the market cap fairly easy, although you can find this information anywhere, but it's good to know where the calculations come from. So the market cap is simply the share price times the amount of shares on issue. So I've got two examples here. So I'm going back to Blackmores and Telstra example because they're vastly different shares on issue and the share price is vastly different too. So Blackmores has 18.7 million shares on issue and their share price today was $65 when I did this calculation. So times 18.7 million by 65, you get a market cap of $1.2 billion. So that's sort of like the market value, sort of what the market is valuing Blackmores as, $1.2 billion. On the other hand, if you take Telstra, the shares on issue 11.9 billion. It's fairly high. You don't want to get much higher than that. In fact, I would say that's even too high. But the share price is $2.90. And one of the reasons I think Telstra decided to have that many, the management decided to have that many shares on issue was because that would lower the share price. So it seems like the average Joe just could buy, it's open to average Joe buying. So the market cap of Telstra times 11.9 billion. Shares on issue by the share price $2.9, and you get a market cap of $34.5 billion. So Blackmores share price is 20 times greater than Telstra. So someone might come along and think, oh, that's expensive when you compare it to Telstra, just because it's 20 times greater. But when you look at the market cap, Telstra's market cap is 30 times greater than Blackmores. So that's all. The whole reason that's different is because the shares on issue is vastly different. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. So this is sort of a different track I'm going on, which videos I've been doing, looking at some of the annual reports coming in. So the future, I've decided to continue on this sort of educational. So not only do I hope to educate people out there, new investors, this is also educational for me too. So I hope to learn some stuff. So some of this stuff here, like for example, what is the rule of 50? It's something I've just discovered recently. But other stuff here, like what is EPS, earnings per share, PE ratio, price to book, PEG, ROE, those sort of things I've already known about. Why invest and what is delayed gratification, very important to investing. And what is free cash flow? Something I'm really getting into is free cash flow, and then just sort of general information like how to find information or ideas, which I actually have been asked about that question before. So thank you for enjoying or hoping you enjoyed this video. But just a disclaimer to begin with, look, I'm not a financial advisor, so I'm hoping this is just a bit of education for some people out there, maybe a bit of entertainment for other people. Maybe you find my voice funny to listen to or whatever. But if you do need financial advice, make sure you speak to a financial advisor. A lot of websites out there, a lot of podcasts you can also listen to, get some more educational advice too. So hope you enjoy this video, and until next time, I'll talk to you later.